Decision Coach Brian giving you a trade recap from Gbpusd going back on Monday, March 28th, 2022. And so before we get into anything, I'm going to start off with first things first. We always want to check our higher time frame. So remember that, for instance, our kind of higher time frame questions that we have is what is the trend, what wave are we currently on, and what area is the trading time frame can possibly reverse. So first, just looking at the higher time frame and looking at our 4 hour being our higher time frame. First and foremost, what do we notice from the trend? Well, we're right now in an uptrend, and the reason why I say that is because if you look here, we have a higher high, we have a higher low, and then we had price that made a higher high. So right now we know that the market's in our uptrend, which answers question one. And so the second thing is kind of what wave are we in? Well, price is expected to come down. And here we have, for instance, our high low. These are two big full body candles. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull somewhere to the half of this and say, okay, or really just kind of in this lower part right here and say, okay, this was an H4 demand. And this H4 demand was our extreme that pushed us all the way for price to go from, let me get my arrow key, all the way from down here, all the way to up here. And so it broke this past area right here where if I draw a horizontal line, it broke this to be able to give us our move upward, right? So we know, for instance, price is an uptrend. So right now, price could have tapped in also into this zone right here. So we have this kind of more decisional demand zone on H4. We have this zone, which is kind of the lower part of this full body candle. But essentially, price is essentially going down. Price has kind of bounced in this region a couple of times. It doesn't look like it's going to stay. I thought originally that, okay, price has to go down specifically, and we're going down into the zone so that price can then go up from here and make a new higher high. So with that being the case, we're in an uptrend. I have a bias that price is going to go down into this bottom H4 zone. So even though we have this here, right here, I didn't treat this zone really as something that was being taught. So that currently tells us we're in our corrective wave on our uptrend, and we have our area is this bottom zone down here. And so now we've answered all the questions for our higher time frame. We can go ahead and go down to our trading time frame and look to see what we see. All right, so price came into our 15 minutes time frame, which is our kind of our trading time frame. And so we have our questions that we ask ourselves on our 15 minutes. So if I pull up our trading time frame questions, what is the trend and what areas we should watch for entry? Well, we know that the trend overall from our higher time frame is going downward. So what we're looking for, expecting, is a price to do something like this and then come back and come into here. So if we haven't seen anything right now, we have we don't exactly have a chalk up according to my rules that I have. So right now the trend for us is still going downward, and so I'm still looking for sales. So I'm gonna play these candles just a bit. We get a strong move right after the London Open where price is going down, so we still have momentum to the downside, which makes me think this H4 demand is going to fail, in which we now have a close below with a candle body. So right now we have a zone or area to watch is for price coming back into this supply that was created right here. So I'm going to call this a supply for M15. And so we know our trend is going downward. So we can see that from the momentum from the candles that everything's going to going this way. And so now I want to see price come back into here. And if it comes back into here, I'm expecting price to go blow past this H4 zone and go down to my next H4 zone. So now I'm just going to let price, see if the price comes and taps into it. Hold on a second. All right, so letting the candles play, seeing if we get something yet. Nothing too much yet into our M15 supply. And then, all right, now price is already tapped into. So we have price tapping into our spot. So now at this point, we've answered everything that we need to have for M15. And so now let's go down to M1 and look for entry. All right, so price came into our perfect spot. hold on a second, it did me 2 candles too early. But what I was going to show y'all is that when you look for instance, where we have our Choch, well, price had this pullback right here. It passed through these wicks, but then it broke with a candle body close. So at this point, I would consider this to be a demand right here. And I'm just going to make this demand. And you see the demand was broken. So we had our demand break. And so what I would treat is that, oh, not that one. Let me use the other tool. So I would treat this as a break of structure because it broke with a body. And therefore, I was looking for an entry, and I like to use seconds entries, but even on the 1 minute, there was entry. So my entry was somewhere kind of close in this region right here. And so if you look for price, I'm just going to move real slowly because it taps in right in here. And what I did was I took a sell position, something like this, and I ended up having, my stop was pretty tight. I couldn't remember exactly where it was, something like this. And I had my take profit all the way down, something like this. There we go. And as far as my take profit, I was kind of targeting that H4 demand zone right here. And so we kind of go deep into the zone. So it was about 31R that I was able to collect from this trade. And so I'm just going to let this play out and I'll just show you what it did. And as you see, price went with deep momentum and it went straight on down. And I think, let's see, where is it at right now? Okay. Going close, going close. And then boom, it tapped in at least enough. But as you see, it kept going more and more and more and more and more. So it went straight through this H4 demand zone. Now, when it came to management purposes, right after I got to my 5R, I tried something new where I moved my stop loss to break even. I didn't take partials, and I trusted that this thing would continue to move, and I did a trailing stop for every 5R. But as you see, I was able to collect 31R from the move, and the move continued to move kind of further down. Even if you'd used a wider stop, this would have been 13R. Even a wider stop, you're still collecting at least 20R going through this demand zone. And price continued to move further down. So I wanted to show y'all this recap to just kind of help y'all to understand the thought process and how I was able to collect a 30R trade and how you can do it too. And so hopefully if you have any questions, make sure to ask in the Discord channel and be glad to be able to answer these questions for you. But it's the same process every time, guys, same questions that I ask every time I get in trade. So I look forward to seeing you in the group, and we'll be glad to answer any more detail that you need to have on this trade.